Well, we're here in Lincoln, Montana with John, and I never even knew that this place existed. I was working on a rather large cow ranch, and they always had pasture for their yearling cattle every year. They didn't have to graze down the main ranch, so they heard about a fellow that bought a ranch in Lincoln, Montana. That's where we're sitting, at the historical Lincoln Log Hotel. And so this fellow that bought the ranch, he bought it in 1948 from George Montgomery and Dinah Shore. They sold the whole ranch, but over by Poor Man Creek, they kept a little area of 2 or 3 cabins that they called Cabin City. I don't know when they sold them or anything else about them. But anyway, they heard that this fellow that bought the ranch from George and Montgomery and Dinah Shore, that he wasn't going to put any cattle on this ranch. Now, this ranch is approximately at least 2 sections of land. So they came over here, and from the ranch on the other side of Dalton Mountain on the upper end of Nevada Creek to talk to the fella, and they said, we're looking for pasture for our yearlings. Well, he said, that'd be fine. He said, how often do you look for pasture? Well, every year. Well, he said, that'll help me out. I really didn't plan on bringing any cattle on here for about 3 years. How about 48, 49, and 50? That'll work. Well, the fellows working on the ranch were men 40 to 70, and they said to the owner's son, he said, you know, that kid's a good rider. He said, he's been hanging out around here for 3 years. He said, why don't we take him with us? He said, you always stand another hand. All right. So they had all the cattle all were rounded up and in the corral. They opened the gate, started the cattle down the ranch lane to get down to the Dalton Mountain Road. Well, I knew darn well I was the kid, 17 years old, and everybody else was 40 to 70. It didn't bother me a bit. They asked me to come along. The week before this cattle drive, they had called over here to the Lincoln Log Hotel and talked to the lady that was cooking and ordered T-bone steaks, 5 of them. Said, we'll be in there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so here we go. All right, well, we start out and got to make them yearlings kind of get going and stuff. Well, then from that point on, once they get going and they figure, well, I guess we got to go someplace, it's like trying to herd a classroom of teenagers horseback. If the gate's open, they won't go through it. If it's closed, they'll just crash it down. So here we go. So we start for Dalton Mountain, we go down the county road, about 3.5 miles, and we take a left-hand turn to go over Dalton Mountain. Well, now it's going to be 23 miles to there. When we got here, it was 6 hours later. Of course, when we got over the south side of Dalton, all uphill, they got to the top and started down the north side towards Lincoln. Well, they just took off, just like you can't believe. Well, finally, the rider got up front and he got them slowed down. We got to the Heron Lake Road, we turned on it, and that takes you over to the Temple Pass Road. So, all right, so they said, hey kid, run up there and stand up there in that with your horse in that corner up there. So you turn them down the county road. All right. So I galloped down there, and another rider, one of the old fellas, they went down there to the gate on the Temple Pass Road, opened the gate, and he stood on the road and hazed them into the gate. And he's counting them. So the other riders, they keep pushing them by me and do everything. They're yearlings are pretty tired now, so they're pretty easy to handle. So they keep on going. Well, the cattle come by me, and the 3 riders come by me, and they get down to the gate, and the last animal goes through the gate, and the guy at the gate, he said, "Hey kid, you got a good count on them. We got them all. Come on down here and shut the gate. We're going into town." Well, he's right there. He shut it. Well, I went down there, shut the gate, and went back and petted my horse. And I said, "You know, horse, I think our first name is Damn It Kid, and our last name is Pay Attention." Well, I've paid attention all my life. And of course, that way, if you pay attention, you get to tell the truth. And people, of course, they don't like the truth. So anyway, we got over here, and they all got caught up, and we rode into the hotel, and the lady had it all the stakes are going and stuff. So they had something to drink and stuff like that, and then they got all lined out, and they said, "Well, kid, that bunkhouse there, we've got it lined out. You stay overnight, and then you go ride the pasture, make things sure it's all right, and then you come on home." Well, so they took off for home. This is about 6 o'clock in the evening. Well, we know darn well that their dad or somebody else is going to have to milk the cows that night. So I stayed in the bunkhouse and had some breakfast, went over and about 2.5 miles over to the pasture, and checked on that, and then I went back across the Heron Lake Road and up over the hill. So back to the hey kid stuff, pay attention. Well, I've paid attention all my life. When you get to be an adult and you paid attention, that means you get to tell the truth. Well, you know, nowadays, actually sitting here where we are now, that just all took place June of 70 years ago. Yeah, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. So anyway, I got home, everything was fine, and the fella that had the ranch, he watched the cattle and took out salt for him, or changed the salt. If he had something that got sick or crippled or something, he'd always let somebody know, and somebody'd come over here and take care of things. Well, then was there the rest of that year and finished high school up at R.Lee, up at Ronan, Montana in '52, and I thought that I'd like to be a veterinarian at one time. Didn't care about being an MD doctor. Well, yeah, you'd be a veterinarian, yeah, that cow or that horse is going to kick you or run over you, but at least it don't call you an SOB. You just got kicked out of the way. So, did 1 year of pre-med, and my grades weren't that good, and Korea started up. So, in September of '53, they drafted us, and we got the basic training, and still in line, staying in the same barracks. And then we got down to Missouri, Fort Leonard, did the combat engineers. We're still in the same bunks, the same barracks. And they cut orders for 96 of us to go to Korea. So we went, we're still all together. He was equipment operator and run the little shop that we had over there. And there was just the 96 of us, so they just needed one demolition fellow, so I was a demolition guy, because I guess they figured I might know something about it, because I'd talk about blowing beaver dams with the guys on the ranch. So I got to be a demolition expert in Korea, so it was strictly mines and booby traps. But then they sent me to a special school to southern Japan, across from Curry Bay, across from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 9 years after the bomb. So I went to this 6-week school, and then they went back to Korea to finish destroying bridges that our Air Force had bombed out the year before. So, and then got that all done, and they got gathered up, and they said, well, we're going to go to Guam to be construction. We get the length of the airstrip of Guam. All right, so we get over there, well, I'm the dynamite man, so they sent me to another school for quarry school and compressors, you know, and, or pneumatic drills. And any of our buddies, if they couldn't make cooks or clerk typists out of them or truck drivers, well, I got them on the drill crew. So we had a crew, started out with 14 guys and 2 drills. Sure, you really stay busy. Well, then they split us up half and half. We got wagon drills, so we drilled and dynamited Coral Rock for 9 months on Guam. Well, of course, we didn't get to finish the project because our turn to go home. All right. So we learned several things about explosives. So we come home and went back to that ranch I was working on. And at the time I didn't realize it, but my Army buddy, he lived in Potomac. I was up here at Lincoln, or else up there north of Avon, or else at Ronan. I think he had 4 nice looking sisters and only one of them were married. Well, you know, every so often these little communities have a dance. Well, there'd always be an extra sister that wasn't going no place, so we'd go to the dance. So then the Army buddy, I stayed 3 more years on the ranch, and Army buddy called up and he said, I need some help in the woods. My brother and myself are going to do some logging at Lincoln for a logger up there. He said, one brother's got the truck and one got a skid cat. And he said, I'm going to run the shovel and I need a hooker. Somebody sling tongs, hook logs to load trucks or skid. So we did that for a while. And I married one of the sisters, and they said, well, that'll slow him down. He said, we'll just make a truck driver out of him. Oh, all right. So we drive truck. Well, we drive logging truck. Highway here through Lincoln wasn't paved in 59, 60. Finished paving in late 61. So then the pulp mill went in and I'd haul chips and things would slow down. I'd go on a tanker. Sometimes I'd haul cattle to Sioux Falls or someplace, Omaha. Always went back to the logging truck. So this went on for 23 years. So after the 23 years, and we had a large family, we had 6 boys and 2 girls. Otherwise, that's the boys' basketball team, a sub, and 2 cheerleaders. So the rest of my life was livestock. Either work on a ranch, help people put a ranch together. Somebody buys a ranch, they need to clean it up. So I tried making a business out of that. It went on for about 10 years. Well, if it was local money, local ranches, it was fine. But if it was absentee owners, well, it was just a write-off for them, and they didn't want you to give them an 85 or 90% calf crop. You wouldn't have enough to write off. So back to the logging trucks. That's all I tried to do, back and forth. So the last 10, about 11 and a half years that I drove truck, it was always logging truck. Sure, things changed. We go from mechanical equipment to hydraulic, which has made things pretty nice. Got to driving logging truck down on a log landing, and then things would slow up. Well, I'd go run tanker for a while. Spring breakup, can't get in the woods. So it ended up the tanker was my main job, and then Canadian fuel get allocated in, and Canadian driver and a Canadian truck bring the fuel into Montana, western Montana. It laid me off. Well, those fellas down at the log landing, they couldn't see my brown pickup sitting at the coffee shop. So they get a hold of you, you're supposed to call the shop. Yeah, come on down, you can plow snow or help the mechanics. Put me in a real nice logging truck, tie a pup trailer on it. Just back and forth. So 6 months later, I'd be back on the tanker. Just went back and forth for 10 years. So that was the last 10 years that I could do anything. Anything. I was getting to be 60 years old, but I didn't feel old. Still could get up in the morning and any time I wanted to. Do most anything I wanted to, get firewood out for myself, help people out. Well, then I got so I couldn't stand the hours or the pressure driving logging truck. But going to MD doctors, and they couldn't figure out what was the matter with me. So they said, well, we'll send you some specialists down in Missoula, Montana. So it'd be this specialist and that one, and lab work, and endocrinologist, and led to a brain tumor, to a neurosurgeon. So he checked me out, and he said, the doctor so-and-so mentioned redness in your right eye. Yeah, we just blamed it on the driver eye strain. Well, he said, stand right there, face me, and look way hard to the left. He said, the whole back of your right eye is all swelled up. We're going to send you across the street to the hospital over there and take an MRI. I'll call you in the morning. All right. So I called him, or he called, and I went down there and went in there to the nurse. Said he's in the film room, and he turned on the light. He said, you see that big white glob on your right eye? Yeah. He said, it's about the size of your fist. We called it a brain tumor. He said, I can do the operation, but Missoula don't have enough backup. He said, I have a colleague that's the head neurosurgeon at the Veterans Administration Medical Center in Seattle. You leave Sunday and you walk in that hospital at 8 o'clock Monday morning. Start taking these pills, hand him this note. So I went in there and handed him a note. He motioned for a wheelchair and took me upstairs. And so they made their own examinations and lab work and stuff. And on a Thursday, the 23rd, 23rd of August was on a Thursday, 1993. Operated on me for 12 and a half hours. Kept me sedated for 5 days. I woke up and the anesthesiologist was there, and he said, well, welcome back. He said, you're doing all right. He said, one of the main reasons I've been here every morning, but he said, I wanted to make sure if I was here today when we figured you'd wake up. I said, well, what day is it? And he told me. He said, well, I wanted to be here to let you know, we don't get very many patients in here like you. No, I said, I suppose you don't. No, he said, in his business, that he can tell that with anesthesia that I don't smoke. I never smoked. Oh, baby cigar. Well, no, he said, these long operations, the surgeon will say, bring him down, stop. He said, I control your workings, all your organs are working for you. And then when he said, well, start, and I touched that valve there, and everything in your being comes right to life. He said, that tells me I've got two lobes of lungs plumb full of air. So altogether, I was there 14 days. They sent me home, stayed with family and friends, and made myself with another friend there at Ovando, which is about 22 miles west of Lincoln, and made my way to Lincoln. So I've been here. The operation, life expectancy of this operation is five years. Well, the operation and the tumor itself is benign, no cancer, and you have these seizures while you're healing up, so they last about 5 years and then you pass away. So, as I already said, this operation was in August the 23rd, 1993. So, I've been up by myself in Lincoln, Montana for 25 years. So now that makes me 86 months and 86 years old. In October I'll be 87, and I still, being I'm old, but I still can get firewood out for the elderly and people that need help. So that's why I'm up here in Lincoln, recuperating from a 12-and-a-half-hour brain tumor operation, and these nice people here, John and his girlfriend, are sitting here listening to me carry on. And so that's about catches up with why and how come I'm still alive. But between we'll say, the winter of 1958, when I came up here to Lincoln and helped the Army buddy log and married one of his sisters, have a family. Well, we did all kinds of things besides drive the truck. Like I say, we worked on these ranches. And of course, this country has all kinds of history about it. Montana, one time, were known to be a sheep raising state. And in the service, they kid us out, when are you going to go back to Montana? Well, then they got rid of the sheep pretty much, and then they went to shorthorn cattle, and then they went to Hereford cattle, and they'd breed Hereford cattle to shorthorn bulls. Well, have dark feet and dark pigment here under the eyes and their bag and stuff. They wouldn't get so sore-footed, the dark hooves, but they gave too much milk. So they started to breed the replacement heifers back to, everything was straight Hereford heifers, back to Hereford bulls. And she'd have a calf, and it'd be a heifer. Oh, we're gonna have a drink of water. But I should get back to, if you wanted to. Oh, yeah, I would like to impregnate that with the fact that I had military explosive knowledge, which I brought back and tuned down for domestic use. See, so I wasn't interested in bidding the blasting of highways, or I did do one bridge. I did a whole great big cement bridge in the Bitterroot River. The one end had flooded out and broke the approach. So the Fish and Game got a hold of my name somehow, some different people. So they called, I went and looked at it. And I said, yeah, I said, it'll take 2 hours to plant it. Big slabs, concrete, because they didn't have no C4, so there's rebar, and stuff. I said, well, they break the cement up, but you're going to have, in order to get rid of it really, you're going to end up with a cutting torch and an excavator to get it out of the water. See, so there were two Fish and Game guys. They came and helped. So but you're supposed to be 300 feet from any power lines. I got this main line that goes through Montana, right overhead, 60 feet. So I said, I can't take any liability of that thing, that wire. Cables are big, right? Big. I said, I'm supposed to be 300 feet, but I said, but since what they were afraid of, high water come again, say not necessarily enough to finish the bridge off, but change the course of the river on that end, see? So this whole bank was already, well, you got big slabs of cement. So I figured out, I was hell for primer cord. I used it for everything in the world you can imagine. And tying charges together. So anyway, I floated, I put a bolt or a nut, anything, the powder will float. Couldn't use fertilizer because it don't, and the pag, if it gets wet, then it's no good. So I had to use stick powder underneath. So I had it tied to a twine, like that, and I'd sew it in up that, and I keep bouncing along until I figured I've got this much twine, like that, and that's this far, it's coming this far right to here, that's where it's under the bridge, right here. And then I put kenna pouch up here, over here, and over here. So I had this coming up, because it's stick powder, it's going to go up, because it's going to be up under the bridge itself. It's going to be right up against the cement. And these are going to be the down on the outside edges. And it worked. You better believe it worked real good. But anyway, I don't think.
Is primer cord?
Huh?
Is primer cord the same thing we call det cord now?
Yeah, no. Primer cord is your 60, 90 grain primer cord, military. Det cord is 18 grain.
Okay.
Yeah. I used it for all kinds of reasons. So ditching powder, the good stuff, you just plant it, 18 inches apart. Well, now they got one they call a power ditch, but you got to put a pigtail of primer cord on each stick, because the detonation doesn't detonate in sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a 5-foot piece of primer cord. What I did with primer cord, I had the tool and a wood stick, and I'd run it through and tie a knot in it, suck it back up into the stick. Then on my pole that I guide it with, I start down the hole, then I put my pole and pull up on the primer cord to keep it going straight down the hole. So you're going to put 4 feet, you got a 5-foot piece of primer cord cut, and then you put it on the stick, and you're going to put that in the beaver dam 4 foot. If you can get down through the rocks and stuff. So each you got, say, 8 sticks of dynamite stretched across this beaver dam. Each one of them's got a pigtail, foot sticking up, the primer cord. So you cut it, you get it. Now you leave the last one over there. You don't cut it. It goes through the stick, down in the beaver dam. You roll it out and tape this one, the pigtails, each one, you tape them. And then over here, you run it out there 20 feet away from the river or creek, away on dry ground, and cut it off and hang it over a rose bush. And then your 6-inch lap, your cap on the primer cord, and you light the cap. Or you light the fuse, or electric. So the primer cord is like 43 or 46,000 feet a second. So there's no boom, boom, boom either. On that primer cord goes off, they all go at the same time. The whole dam goes up in the air. But what I never was the primer cord and the det cord, 18 grain. I used it for all kinds of reasons. Safety factors. Sure, I put lots of caps with a fuse and stuck them in a stick and put them in the water. Well, I got this other material. I don't have to stick them and grease them. And put a primer cord. It don't get wet. I mean, it don't get void.